What's up, everybody? We're back.
Yeah. Hey, welcome back to a Metal Edge Journey. Hey, so hopefully you've been following along with us here for a little bit. We are trying to do 4 top 20 lists at the same time. It's not exhausting or confusing at all. This week we are back on to the top 20 glam/hair metal list. This week we have number 17. This is Poison with Open Up and Say Ah. So we'll do a quick history of the band here and we'll get right into it. Poison, formed in 1983, is a glam metal band from Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. The most successful lineup for the band featured Bret Michaels on vocals and guitar, Ricky Rocket on drums, C.C. DeVille on guitar, and Bobby Dahl on bass. And that's Dahl, D-A-L-L. Like, I think that was an obvious, like, he could have just been Bobby Dahl, D-O-L-L, to kind of match like the rest of the band, but obvious miss at that point. The band has released 6 studio albums, and they've sold over 65 million records worldwide. 65 million. Open Up and Say Ah, released in 1988, is the band's second studio album. This was the band's most successful release. The album peaked at number 2 on the Billboard charts. The album was certified 5 times platinum by 1991. The album produced 4 singles: Nothing But a Good Time, Fallen Angel, Every Rose Has Its Thorn, and Your Mama Don't Dance.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So based on just some conversation throughout the week, I get the feeling that there's definitely 2 people here that are not big fans of this record. So Jonah, why don't you go first, man? Tell us how this record made you feel.
So on first listen, I was pretty receptive to it. It sounded like your pretty typical hair/glam metal fare. The vocal style, the guitar playing style, the subject matter of which they're singing, all that stuff.
Have the other records, I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, I apologize, but this is just, it's funny because I feel like the other records are like this too a little bit. Have the other records, the first time you listened to them, been like the best time you listened to it? And then after you spun it for like 2 or 3 more times, then it became like obviously not as good?
Yeah, that seems to be a recurring theme with the hair metal list, for me at least. I don't know if I can't speak for everyone, but for me, it's starting to wear a little thin, the flavor that hair metal usually presents. So it's not really this album's fault necessarily that I'm kind of, for lack of a better term, I'm kind of over it at this point. I've said it before, but the hair metal genre hasn't exactly aged the best, in my opinion, for my taste at least. But all that said, I have plenty of things to say critically. It was a fun album to listen to for sure. All of the upbeat songs are catchy and hooky. Obviously the singles are have really catchy like choruses and stuff, and specifically there's a couple of songs in here where like they kind of changed it up a little bit with like the vocal melodies and harmonies, and I liked that a lot. There's some good solos too. Nothing like that blew my mind or anything like the David Lee Roth album, but that's obviously a much better guitar player. But yeah, no, I mean overall, I'm pretty critical in my, and we'll see that in my final score, but it wasn't terrible to listen to, and it's only 36 minutes long, so it's not a slog to get through or anything. Much like the what album was it we were talking about recently, where it just
Extreme?
It might be Extreme, yeah, where you can kind of let it play. Yeah, like this is only 36 minutes, and you can just kind of let it play in the background, and it'll fill the emptiness. But as far as from a critical perspective, I wasn't a huge fan.
Yeah, Jason, what'd you think?
I grew up in this era. I was a freshman in high school when this came out, but unfortunately for me and for Poison, I was over the hair metal stuff, and I was waiting for something else to come along. I was the perfect target audience for the Black Album, and I did not listen to this album back in the day, but I had friends. Shout out to Richie Jones, who loved Poison. Dude had posters in his room. Like his parents didn't like him listening to it, so he'd listen to it when he was in his
Fuck yeah,
car
Richie.
or
Way
at
to
the
be.
house or on
Uh,
whatever it was.
Imagine Poison being the band that
Yeah.
you hide from your parents. I mean, this is the
Yeah.
same year that And Justice for All dropped. I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
I
there was
agree.
better stuff to be hiding from your parents on.
What I did find myself was much like Jonah. Like the first time through, I'm like, God dang, man, there's some good songs on here. Um, but what I quickly realized is that I only knew the hits. I have never heard a single second of any other part of this album besides the singles, and for good reason, uh, because just a lot of background noise on this album, in my opinion. Uh, the album is fun. The album is good. It's not terrible like Extreme. All of these songs, I only had one skipper really. Uh, but again, what Jonah said, I think the nostalgia started wearing off the later in the week. And so by today, when I listened to it the last time, I was just like, yeah, I'm done with this.
Mhm.
But it was fun. Memory lane.
Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, I'll try to say a little bit of different things than those two gentlemen, because I would say their experiences kind of mimic my own. You know, I will agree the first listen was probably the best. But again, like Jonah said, I think what we figured out at least 4 albums into this hair metal list is just kind of like the gimmick does wear, unless you grew up in it. And I'm curious if anybody in the comments wants to talk about this below, but I feel like if you grew up in this, similar to like new metal for us, because I think that's kind of our generation's version of this. You know, if you grew up in it, it's totally different. It speak like, because you know you have that nostalgia you get to feed off of. I don't have that, and so I'm left with just the what is here. And to Jason's point, I think a lot of these songs, like I think the first 2 tracks like bleed right into each other. I feel like a lot of the riffs are very similar. Like I feel like they use a lot of the same like everything is very formulaic. A lot of the same chord progression, a lot of the same keys and all the songs. Like a lot of the notes are even very similar. And I just felt like outside of the hits, like there was just very few moments where I felt like there was something different happening. And obviously some of the lyrics I think are just kind of just the typical, you know, cringy, you know, 80s type of stuff, but I'm not going to hold that against it. I mean, it is what it is. But yeah, I mean, this wasn't Extreme or even David Lee Roth is like, so I mean, this is not horrible, but by no means would I say that I was looking forward to it as the week progressed.
You know, I think I normally would agree with you guys. I think in the last few records, the first pass was really good, and then like the album just wore on me. And this week it was different, man. This week I listened to the album the first time and I was like, yeah, it's pretty good. And then I found myself more and more looking forward to the record to listen to it. Even today, I listened to it 3 times as I had some time, and I was just like, man, this fucking record is good. I don't know. I don't know what's different about it. I don't know if it's maybe coming off of like that Doors record, and so it's just like a nice change of pace, or if it's
It was definitely easier to listen to than the Doors.
yeah, or if it was just maybe coming from Extreme on the last band we did on this list. I don't know. I don't know if it's just the songwriting was more in my wheelhouse this time. I mean, I'm not a big lyric guy necessarily. Like I'm not sitting down and parsing through the lyrics to find something that like moves me. I'm more of like a melody guy. And I felt like this just had better. I just felt like this had better melodies this time around than like Extreme did, as an example. If we're going to compare it, I mean, it's certainly not. You know, CC DeVille and Bret Michaels as guitar players they're certainly not Steve Vai or Nuno Betancourt, right? Like, you know, I'm not saying they outplayed these guys necessarily, but I thought the riffs that they wrote and I thought the solos that were on the record were fitting for the songs, right? So I don't know. I found myself like really enjoying the record as I went along and really having it grow on me more and more. So I actually enjoyed this record. We'll go over scores a little bit later, and you may see my score and think, man, you really enjoyed the record. Why are you giving it this score? I'm just trying to leave room for some of the other records that I know on this list eventually will be there, because I think this list is going to eventually be top heavy. I think we're going to get to the top. We're going to get to the Motley Crues of the world, and some of those top end albums. And I think probably the top 5 is really going to be like the real payoff for this list. Whereas like the rock list has been outside of the doors has been pretty fucking magnificent so far.
Yeah.
So I'll go into my MVPs for the record here. I'm gonna pick the instrument that I play here. So I'm gonna pick the guitar players CC and Brett. And it's really I'm going more for the songwriting than anything else. Again, I really dug the riffs that were on this record, the solos that were on this record, and just kind of the composition of the songs. Like I said, I mean, lyrics or whatever, I'm not paying too much attention to that part of it, but I just found myself just enjoying the songs. But there was not really a standout performance, in my opinion. So it was a little harder to pick an MVP. So I kind of went for those guys. Everybody technically has songwriting credits for the album, but I'm gonna go CC and Brett. Dave, what'd you have?
Yeah, I'll just jump in and I'm gonna say by default, I picked CC DeVille. I'm gonna just kind of throw this out now. I think Bret Michaels is the epitome of, like, he's like the carbon cutout of 80s frontman. But I would say, in my opinion, I don't think he's like particularly fantastic singer necessarily. I think he's just kind of like, I think he does exactly the bare minimum or whatever, but I don't think he's like, he's not blowing me away with his singing performance. He's just kind of there.
But would you say, like, of the ones we've done so far, I mean, he's definitely better than Gary Sharon.
Yeah.
From Extreme, and I think he's better than DLR.
Yeah, I mean, correct. I would say he is, but again, there's nothing in his performance that like I said, like, I don't know the Motley Crue stuff, but I'm just thinking of like the songs that I know, like Dr. Feelgood. Like that's a super good vocal performance on that song, and then even Skid Row. I can't think of the track that I know, but
18 in Life.
Yeah, like that's
Slave to the Grind.
Yeah, like those are some really standout vocal performances that I know this genre can do. And there's others, right? I know I'm missing stuff, but there's nothing Bret Michaels here that he did that really like blew me away. And like I said, lyrically, I thought this was like, again, just very standard 80s hair metal fare. Nothing here was exceptional. There was no attempt at anything deep whatsoever. I guess maybe Every Rose Has Its Thorn is the closest thing to that, but I'd give it to CC DeVille just kind of by default.
Go ahead, Jason.
I'm going to disagree with Dave and go with Bret Michaels as my MVP. I think he has the perfect voice for this band. Sure. I don't think anybody across the board really stands out to Josh's take. Also, the recording, it's very much vocals to the front, and even drums to the front. Most of the riffs are kind of like mixed in further in the back, so you can't really get the full impact of a lot of the riffs, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't think the production does this album justice from a metal perspective. It's much more hair, less metal. I agree.
So I'm going to give it to Bret, even though I agree with you, Dave. There's nothing on here. Like, you're not getting like a Judas Priest crazy vocalist shot. But I don't think in this era, I don't think you needed it for this type of music, for this band in particular. So I think he did the bare minimum, which was what I think was the expectation for him to do on this album. I gave it to him. I agree with you. A lot of the lyric side of it is a little bit on the cheesy side, but the 80s was full of cheese.
Yeah, I mean, like, it is what it is. Jonah, what you got?
Go ahead, Jonah.
So, for me, one of the highlights of the album was definitely the guitar work, specifically the solos. Like, there's a couple of songs in here in particular where I was like, yeah, that was good. That was really good. So I don't think Bret Michaels is a terrible singer or anything like that. Like, I think he's like Jason said, he's perfectly fine for this band. My problem with the vocals in this album was like the effects that they were using on it. It sounded the whole time like it was like he was singing from the stage of like some small like dingy club or bar or something. Like,
Yeah, the production
that
of this
was
album it doesn't do a lot of justice.
yeah, the
Across the
vocal
board.
the singing itself was fine, but the way the vocals sounded in the mix and like the effects they were using, I wasn't a huge fan of.
Did the bass
That was like my
guitar
only
even
row.
exist in this production? Like in the
It-
mix
with
at
the-
all?
With
No.
headphones.
Yeah, you can barely hear it with headphones.
So, and I'll come back to this, but like there is a song on here where it is pretty bass heavy in some parts, and that is one of my more favorited songs. But yeah, it's got to be CC as my MVP, purely for his solo work. Was in an album that I wasn't a huge fan of. That was a standout or a highlight for me.
Jonah, hit us with your what's your best riff?
I think best riff has to be on "Bad to Be Good."
Okay, the last song.
Yeah.
And spoiler, that's probably it's in my top 3.
Okay.
But it opens up with the bass, and the riff is just a little bit more. I don't know. It felt like it's definitely heavier for sure, and that song in general felt like something a little different from what the rest of the album was trying to do. So that was I really like the riff in that one.
That's a weird
Nice.
song because I really like the riff, but I don't like that song.
I don't either.
Yeah, but I agree with you. Like that's the one like heavier song that feels like the guitar work is more prevalent.
Yes.
So,
Jason, what do you got for your best riff?
I went with the main riff in Fallen Angel.
Really? Okay.
Nice heavy, but it's slower. Slower pace riff.
Heavy.
There was no hidden gems for me in this.
I'll go next, Josh. I don't like the lyrics of the song at all, but the opening riff in "Look But You Can't Touch" is a highlight for me.
Because the best things in life ain't cheap.
Yeah. The lyrics of that song are like mega, like whoa, like this dude might need to like.
And he's trying to get his willy wet. Come on.
He's also like a sexual harasser, probably.
It was the 80s.
I'm not affiliated with Jason. His takes, that is not okay. It doesn't matter. Time does not.
It doesn't excuse it, but it explains it.
Yeah, it doesn't excuse it at all. But no, the opening riff in that song makes you think that the song is going to be good, and then the rest of the song happens.
Yeah, then the lyrics kick in.
Yeah. This dude's
and
like,
it's not a great song.
And this dude says that he's gonna give her a bunch to drink, and then she took off her clothes. Like, dude, come on, bro. Whoa.
She still said no.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, he's like. Anyway, the opening riff is good.
Yeah, all my usual tricks don't work.
Oh my god, dude.
I'm gonna go with the intro riff to "Tearing Down the Walls." That riff is just so different than anything else that's on the record. It's that it's just, I don't know. There's something different to it. I really enjoy it. When that song would come on, man, I just kind of had a fucking vibe to it. So I really like that one. Speaking of that song coming on and having a fucking vibe, let me give you my top tracks here. So I'm even going to give you an honorable mention this week because that's how good I feel about this record. Okay. Honorable mention, "Love on the Rocks," opening song. I like it. It's catchy. Number 3 for me, "Back to the Rocking Horse." I can't tell if that is like, is that a, like going back to a rocking horse like a strip club, or back to the rocking horse like you're going back to the time when you were on a rocking horse like you were a kid, right? I don't know. I can't quite pick up the
if I had to guess, I would Bret Michaels and this band. I'm gonna maybe strip club is probably where I would lean.
Hey, but that song had my second best riff.
Yep, dude, I just love the intro riff for that. Oh no, that's "Back to the Rocking Horse." Yeah, that had some other good riffs in it. My intro riff though, "Tearing Down the Walls," number 2 song. And number one song for me, and this is like multi levels above everything else. This is probably even in my top 100 songs of all time. I'm not sure, but Nothing But a Good Time. I fucking love this song, man.
Yeah.
It just feels good. I have like a little happy playlist with just songs that just fucking like make me feel happy if I'm having like a shitty day. And this song's on it, man. Like I love this song. I think it's a great song.
It is a good song.
Easily the best song on the record for me.
All right. I'll jump in here real quick. Yeah, I'll jump in here. Look, I will say it's pretty. For me, it was difficult to come up with a top three. But I am gonna go number 3, Love on the Rocks. I think it is a decent. I think it's a decent opener. It also like goes straight into Nothing But a Good Time. So it goes into it with a very similar riff, oddly enough. But my number 2 is look. It is what it is. Every Rose Has Its Thorn is my number 2. It could be because I just know that song just through osmosis.
It is catchy.
Funny enough, it is like the longest song on the record, which is weird. At 4 minutes 20 seconds, 4:20, whatever.
Nice.
That's the slowest, I guess.
And then my number 1 song, I think Josh, you nailed it. Nothing But a Good Time. I think that kind of does transcend Poison. Like it's just a generally good song. And it would, if I was making any type of playlist, if I was pulling anything from this album, that would be the only song that I would actually like pull and put onto something else. I think that song is a standout performing song. So, yep, that's my top 3.
Go ahead, Jason.
All right, so it's very close. My 2 and 3. Actually, all of these are, but as far as my scoring went, they both tied. But by the narrowest of margins, Every Rose Has Its Thorn is my number 3. Number 2, Nothing But a Good Time, and number 1, Fallen Angel. It's a fucking solid song, man.
God, Jonah, go ahead.
So as David mentioned, I also had a bit of a hard time coming up with a top 3. But I did have in number 3, Back to the Rocking Horse. I like the chorus for that song, definitely. Number 2 for me, Every Rose Has Its Thorn. It's a catchy song. It's a pretty decent ballad. It's got a pretty good solo. And then number 1 for me, Bad to Be Good.
Damn, not even Nothing But a Good Time in the top 3, Jonah?
It's my honorable mention.
It's Nothing But a Good Time at number 4.
Yeah.
Dang.
I don't like that at all. All right. Well, hey, if you are any type of metal fan in the world out there, you know that the sweet spot for any heavy metal record is 8 songs. So we always like to do an exercise here on the show where we try to cut these albums down to 8 songs to make the real 8-song masterpiece here. So Jonah, you got to cut 2 songs. Which 2 songs are you cutting?
This was easy for me.
Uh-oh.
So for starters, there's a cover on here. Your Mama Don't Dance.
Yep.
I think that's a gimme.
I think we all are cutting that song.
Yep.
Yeah.
That song's not even good. It's not even a good.
No.
It's not even good. It's not like
No.
they made it.
It's not bad.
I knew your old ass was gonna say that song. Like that song sucks.
I would definitely rather listen to the original than this version any day.
Yeah. I knew right away. I was like, I've heard this song, and it didn't sound like this.
You're like, I know all these words.
Yeah. And then the other song I would cut is Fallen Angel. I think that song sucks.
Wow. Jesus Christ. I hate you guys.
Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, again.
We're going to allow you to retort.
Yes. Pretty easy on Your Mama Don't Dance. It's a cover. It's got to go. But I'm pretty sure me and Dave are going to have this song on the cutting room floor. Look, but you can't touch. Lyrically, it's a travesty.
It's a good
Stuck
song.
in the 80s, and it doesn't age well.
It's a good song. You can look, but you can't touch. Yeah, man.
I think it's got the best solo on the album.
I will say that the chorus is slightly catchy.
Slightly catching my ass.
All right.
You're out there mowing your fucking yard, singing that shit.
All right. Jason, I'm right there with you on Your Mama Don't Dance. I think that's an easy cut. I agree. And Jonah, dude, I think you're spot on. Fallen Angel fucking blows. That song
That
is
song
not
sucks. That song
like,
sucks.
dude.
Oh,
That
stupid.
song sounds like the intro to just like fucking Adventures of Babysitting, like that type of movie. Like,
I
Mama's
mean, it might have
Fallen
been.
Angel. Like, dude, fuck that song. I will say though, sorry, Jonah. Bad to the Bone is like the third one that I would cut if I was
Yeah,
cutting it. If like
I
this song
agree.
was 11 songs, Bad to Be Good would have been that other one to cut. But Fallen Angel, dude, I think it's too. It sounds like a fucking Christmas song. Like I don't like it at all.
Oh my God, you're terrible.
Well, I do have Your Mama Don't Dance, obviously, as a cut. But again, it's a cover. Like you said, it doesn't really count. So I am also cutting the worst song on the record here. Sorry, Jason. It is absolutely Fallen Angel. That song sucks so bad.
No, so fucking dumb. Yeah,
Is
Oh
that
that'd
my
be like
shit?
I'll be my
god.
friends.
That shit is terrible bad. Okay,
No,
like, dude, I couldn't
I
put it.
was
I
not
couldn't put it
expecting
on my
that.
list fast enough. I didn't even put Your Mama Don't Dance first on my list. I put Fallen Angel first. I was like, oh yeah, Your Mama Don't Dance, obviously. Like
wow,
I was cutting Fallen Angel over Your Mama Don't Dance.
Jesus, y'all just don't know good music, I guess.
I actually agree with Josh. I think Fallen Angel is a worse song than Your Mama Don't Dance. I still think Your Mama Don't Dance is not good, but I think Fallen Angel is worse. Like I would skip Fallen. Like it was getting to the point where I was skipping Fallen Angel. Like as soon as the chorus hit, I was
Yeah.
already done.
No, I didn't even listen to it one time today. It would come on. I was like, boop, gotta go.
Wow,
Yeah, it basically
like
hit the
Kevin
cutting
King.
room floor the first time I heard it.
Christ.
All right. Well, hey, we made it to the end of the show here. This is where we like to give our score.
It's funny how that type of shit just lines up where three of us absolutely hate a song and it's Jason's number one. I knew when Jason had his number
That's
one, I
so
was like,
funny, dude.
I was like, oh no, that's not good.
Well,
Hey
this is
man,
where we like
that's
to
a
give
cool
our.
one.
This is where we like to give our score for the record here. And so, just to give you some context on how we score the records here. For a lot of folks, an average score would be a 7. For us, it's a 5. So, if the album gets anything between a 4.9 and below, that's various levels of we would not recommend it. Anything 5 to 9 is various levels of we would recommend it, and 9 to 10 is various levels of just absolute greatest albums of all time. I think I'm going to give the best score, so maybe I'll go first.
Okay.
Just to kind of get this thing started and watch it just roll downhill. So when I first heard the record, I was like, okay, yeah, we're at least. I felt like immediately there, this was already the best hair metal record we gotten on the list, and I was already just at a 6 at least. And then over the next week, as I listened to it, I just got more and more into it, and I really enjoyed it. And it got into a 7. And I was like, man, I can't believe this album's getting into a 7. And then I listened to it 3 more times today. I said, dude, this album is an 8.
Uh-oh.
And then I was like, nah, it's not. It's a 7.3, actually.
Okay, I'm gonna go next because I think I have a counterpoint to Josh here. I don't think it's the best hair metal album we've listened to. I think at all. I think Kix's "Blow My Fuse" is still number one for me.
That album is so forgettable. I can't even remember what one song on that is. Red Light, Green Light?
Yeah. But I don't think this album is bad. It's way better than Porno Graffiti. And it is better than Eat 'Em and Smile, but I went back and I looked at what I gave Blow My Fuse by Kix, and I did run through it once today, and it's a better record than this. I ended up, this fell below a 6 for me. It's at a 5.8. I'd still recommend it. It's still perfectly, it's above average. Like, I could listen to this again and it wouldn't hurt my feelings, but it's not a great album. I probably won't.
Go ahead, Jason.
I would have said that I thought this would get a higher score than what I gave it, simply because I knew that the hits were big. But the biggest shocker that I came across was the fact that I had never heard anything from this album besides those singles. And after today, I probably wouldn't go back to any of those songs that weren't part of that group of singles. And the album can't be totally carried by these great hits from the '80s because they're not as great as I used to think they were. So while the hits are still strong, I think most of this album is very meh. I gave it a 6 flat. I would
right,
recommend
Jonah.
it, but it's a very much of a timepiece.
All right, Jonah, do the right thing. Come on, come join me in the sevens, dude. It feels good up here.
So the TLDR is I would not recommend this album.
Oh, God.
No.
So
All right, guys. Well, hey, if you like this video, go ahead and hit the like and hit the subscribe. We're getting out of here.
Hold on.
So I mean, one of my first impressions, especially with like the first half of the album, everything just sounds very samey. Like
Yeah.
they use a lot of like very standard like bluesy riffs. Everything like Dave said, everything's in the same key. And that's not a bad thing on its own, but when you combine it with the fact that it's this hair metal vibe and the way everything is mixed and
It's very
and
formulaic.
when you put the whole package together, in my opinion, this is not one of those albums where the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. And the parts that I didn't like, I really didn't like. And because of the way I score my reviews, I score each song individually, and then I take an average. And I've even started incorporating a weighted average depending on the length of the song, but we don't need to get into that. So I ended up coming
I
in
thought I
at
was
just
nerding out.
I ended up coming in at just under a 5. This gets a 4.7 from me.
That is the lowest that Jonah so far is saying. That is the worst hair metal album we reviewed.
It's the one that I enjoyed the least.
Gotcha.
And I said this up top. It may not be this album's fault. I may just be having some hair metal burnout, and I'm totally willing to admit that there may be some negative bias coming into this review.
The crazy thing about that burnout is the way we were doing this is like you're only dealing with this once a month, and that's already enough for you to get burnout. So
I think it's very clear that hair metal is not my genre. I'm 100% willing and ready to be surprised when we get to the higher tiered ones, like Josh said. So I'll eat my words. I'll eat my words then. But
you'll eat them and smile. I got it.
I will eat them and smile. Yeah.
Yeah, you're ready to blow your fuse. So open up and say ah. Okay. That puts us at a 5.95. Just under a 6.
I think that's fair.
So C tier. That is the second best score we've given for hair metal. It's not looking great for hair metal, but I will admit,
best?
Kicks 6.2. I will say that I do agree with Jonah. All joking aside, like I hope we're being lulled into a false sense of security here. And as we get to, like Josh was talking about, as we get to some of the top records, I'm hoping we're all impressed. So,
hey, look, I can't wait to get a couple of these Motley Crue albums.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, if we've been lulling into a false sense of security, go ahead and hit that like, hit the subscribe. We're putting out weekly metal content right now. We got metal reactions, metal reviews, metal time machines, metal brackets, and all kinds of other cool shit. And in the meantime, live long and prosper.
Take it easy, everybody.
Later.
Peace.